when you're first getting started in the running game, that oftentimes you see people that are 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, people that have run marathons, people that have done ultras, and sometimes they forget. A lot of times when I have them on, they say, okay, well, this is how I got started, but they forget and they don't tell us the things that we think about all the time. And as a new runner, being 3 years in the game, I remember all of it. So I have Kelly here. Kelly is one of the fellow beginner runners that I met in a Facebook group. And this is so important for all of you new runners. If you want to get a support group, definitely find a group on Facebook that will help you support you on your journey. So, Kelly, hello.
Hello, how are you today?
I am fantastic. Thank you for joining us. And the first question I have, because you are new to me, I want to know, and everybody else wants to know, who is Kelly?
So I am a neonatal intensive care nurse. I have two teenage daughters. Um, I have animals that drive me crazy, but right now, I went through a divorce not too long ago, so a lot of those things have helped me reevaluate what I needed in my life.
Yeah, that will do it. How old are your daughters?
I have an 18-year-old who is currently in boot camp at Naval Boot Camp. It's been there for about 3 weeks. And I have a 16-year-old.
Oh, wow. You're right in the heart of the teenage years. I have three boys, 25, 23, and 7.
Oh, wow.
The 7-year-old was a surprise.
Yep.
We thought we were done. So tell me, how did you get started? How long has it been since you started running?
So I'm probably about going back a little further, about probably 15 years ago. I was travel nursing and I saw something randomly online and they were talking about triathlons. So I was like, well, I was a swimmer in high school and I can ride a bike and I can always walk, was my theory behind it. So I did a couple sprint triathlons, but finding a pool can be challenging. Some of the areas where I live, riding a bike is not the best place either. So I came up with the idea. All I got to do is put on tennis shoes, and I can go out and run anytime.
Okay.
So I started doing that, and I remember when my run became faster than my walk, and so that was a big deal to me.
Mhm.
Um, and I found a group of ladies around here that were willing to slow the roll a little bit and help me along. And I have now completed one full marathon that I never want to do again. And I've done a few uh, Olympic distance, or not Olympic distance. I've done a few half marathons, and of course I 5Ks and 10Ks. So
Now,
I'm
what was about the marathon that you said, "Never again, no more, I'm good"?
It is. I was lucky enough to have a couple ladies who took me under their wing and said that I was going to finish it no matter what.
Mm.
And I think I was good through the first 18 miles or so, and then it was just really, really, it's difficult.
Mm.
I can say that I did it, and but the amount of negotiation and brain power and everything pulling it up out and trying to get through it. And I'm not fast. It was 6.5 hours.
Mhm.
It's a long time.
Yeah.
So I did that with triathlons at one time. I did an Olympic distance, and I feel like I can focus on a shorter distance and improve times and enjoy it a little bit more than
Mm.
the really long distance. Obviously, it's not an ultra or anything, but it's one of those things that I would rather focus on a
Yeah.
mid-range thing and become better at it and improve myself because I'm
Mm,
not racing against anybody else but myself. So
absolutely. Yeah,
that's
it's me
that's
against
where I'm at.
me.
Yeah.
That's so you've been running for about 15 years.
I've been running consistently for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
I
Okay.
would train enough to go and do an event and then I'd kind of slack off. Now I've seen the error of my ways
Uh,
and I still have to set goals for myself.
yeah.
I have to pay for races because if I don't, I won't train.
Yep.
And so I will go every so often and go, okay, well, this one's coming up, and I do that one, and then I go through and let's see what else is out there.
Mm. What brings you joy doing a race or during a training? What do you find brings you back to, I'm going to do this again?
Um, I like seeing my improvement. I went out. I had one of the best runs just the other day, and it was not long. It was only 3 miles, but it was the best time I had made, and I hadn't been on the road in probably 2 or 3 months.
Wow.
So to notice that that muscle memory is still
Yeah.
there and still able to do it, and it's good. It shows my body what it can do, and that's kind of amazing. I'm in my 50s, and I just it can do a lot, and so that makes me feel very strong and able to deal with stuff in other parts of my life.
Good. Do you obsess like I do? Well, I used to. I don't do it as much over pace.
Hey, so I do intervals.
Okay.
Right, so I obsess over interval times more
Okay.
so than anything, right? Oh, okay, so I'm doing 2 minutes of run and 1 minute of walk, and why can't I do 3 minutes and 1 minute? That sort of
Mhm.
thing to build up to that, and during my marathon, I did 4 minutes and 1 minute, but,
Okay.
it for 17, 18 miles, and then we started having to negotiate a little bit more, but, I that's what I obsess because obviously it offsets and speeding up my walk time. So I'm trying to increase my times, um,
Mhm.
and breathing. I sit there. It's one of those everybody talks about doing breath up exercises to calm down. When I'm running, I can only concentrate on how
Oh, good.
fast my feet are hitting the
Yeah.
pavement and how well I'm breathing.
Yeah. Are you a mouth breather or nose breather or
I
both?
think I do both. I
Uh-huh.
try to get all the air into my lungs I possibly can.
A lot of people that I meet, like, friends of mine who see me running, they go, "How do you breathe? I don't know how to breathe." And I realize that what happens is a lot of new runners go out too fast.
Right,
And then they're like, they're breathing and they're heaving, and they don't realize, oh, this isn't a breathing issue, it's a pace. Like you're going way too
right,
fast.
right,
And when I started, I was going on YouTube looking for how to breathe, how to
right.
breathe. And it
Once
never really clicked because you had to do it over and over and over.
right. Yeah. I find once I get into about 4 or 5 miles, I start getting into a rhythm with my
Yeah.
breath. So it is timed with my footsteps and breathing in on 3 or 4 and then breathing out. And again, it's one of those things that, yeah, you have to learn how to breathe. And if I'm panting and everything else, then I'm definitely going too fast.
Yeah. I still am. So it's been 3 years since COVID, and I was not a runner at all. Like I didn't well, let me go back. I flirted with running probably it's been probably maybe 10 years. And what that looks like is, oh, there's a group that they are gonna go run on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I
Right.
would go one time and
Right.
pretend like, oh, I'm gonna get in the picture. And then I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore because it was too early, too far, and I couldn't keep up.
Or keep up with the pace. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And so then once, things started going to hay, like, I needed something. I was like, "I just need to get outside," and I said, "You know what? I'm really gonna give this running thing, like, for real. Like, I wanna try to run a mile because I had never run a mile."
Right.
And when I started, it was, "This is hard. This
Right.
is really hard. And I'm glad that I had already made up my mind that I was going to run because I probably would have quit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And and these events are definitely mind over matter, right? You're fighting with yourself the entire time. The
Yep.
first mile lies every time,
Oh my gosh.
and
Today,
sometimes it's 2 miles that lie every time.
so
But I
silly.
yeah, so it's okay, just get past this. Although I took my dog out this morning to run with me, and she can get up to about, at the height of my training, she could do about 7 or 8 miles with me. But it's been a while, so I took her out this morning with me to do 3, and she pooped out about a mile and a half. So it was a mile and a half walk home because
Now, how does that look like? Because I'm getting a dog in December and I want to run with my dog. Well, how do you
Mhm.
know when your puppy is like, you know what, I'm not doing
Oh,
this
she
with
stops. She
Okay.
just stops. She
Okay.
just stops. But like I said, it's been a while, so I'm going to back her off a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's things that I look at with her to just like we have to build up in our training, she has to build up in hers.
Yeah.
So we started slow, and I thought that she would retain a little bit more to go about 3 miles, but apparently not. So we have to back up a little bit. And I have to think about her fueling and stuff like that
Mhm.
as well as mine.
Yeah.
We started out very slow, and depending on how, if you're getting a puppy, obviously you need to start out. It's not good for them to start running
Mhm.
for at least a year or so, um, and then start them on grass. So if you're running on the sidewalk, try to keep them
Ah,
on the grass, because pounding the pavement
yeah.
is hard, and they don't have the shoes to help them with
Yeah.
that.
Thank you. That I didn't even realize that because I've never ran with my dog. The last dog that I had was a miniature schnauzer, and she would have this reverse sneeze, so we would never do anything. I'm like, "What? I didn't even do anything."
Right,
But I
right.
think she just had terrible allergies, so
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what kinda dog do you have?
I have a standard poodle,
Aw.
and so she's not a big standard. She's about 45 pounds.
Okay.
But yeah, and she loves to go out with me. But yeah, she'll stop. I mean, we got to the top of the hill, and we were going to turn around and go back the other way, but she just, when I started my interval, she just was like, no, we're done with this. And she came to a full stop, and I had to convince her that we at least had to walk back home because I was not
What
carrying her
you
back
doing?
that way.
Have you ever had to carry your dog?
Oh no, 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 no. She has to suck it up. We will slow down to a crawl, but she is walking on her own.
So funny. That's so funny. Now, have you done any races this year?
I did. So my marathon was in January,
Awesome.
and um, I was supposed to do the Publix, because you're from the Atlanta area, aren't you? Yeah. So my first was supposed to be the Publix marathon that was in February. But last year, when I was training for a marathon and then the divorce happened, I had gone down. I was going to go down to Jekyll Island and do a half and
Mhm,
see where I was at in my training,
mm.
and it got canceled.
Mm.
So the registration rolled over to this year.
Oh.
So to go do a marathon, and I could do any distance. So to do a marathon in a flat area
Ah.
versus Atlanta hills.
Yeah. And if
Well,
you guys are watching and you're not from Atlanta, let us tell you, this is the most one of the most hilliest places.
yes,
Nashville definitely has hills too.
right. So I downgraded to a half, but then I got sick.
Oh, no.
So I wasn't able to even do my half. So
Aw.
that was one that was missed. I did a triathlon a couple weeks ago, and a sprint in Cobb County, and placed second in my age group, which was a
Nice.
first ever.
That's awesome.
And a couple of 5Ks. I think there was some on the Beltline that was like a 5 mile or something like that. So smaller races. I've got a triathlon, but instead of swimming, it's with a kayak, coming up at Lake Lanier next
Wow.
month. And then I have a half scheduled, but I don't remember what it is, to be
Okay.
honest.
And you're
So
good.
before the end
You
of the year.
like halves.
I do. I
Okay.
do. I mean, in the moment, I don't really like them, but I but
Me too.
again, it's one of those where I just started training, and 4 or 5 miles isn't a bad thing right now. It's
Right.
not that difficult for me to do,
Yeah.
and and that's almost halfway there.
Mhm.
So it's
Yeah.
all about the math, and so it it's one of those things that I feel more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Maybe way down the line, maybe I'll get
No.
silly again and decide to do another marathon, but
It's a huge commitment. I think a lot of times, especially people that have families, it is a lot to train for a full. You can't just go out there and go, I'm going to run. I mean, if you were 20, maybe, but
right.
over 40, no way.
Right,
And
and I work
running,
12-hour shifts, so on
whew,
days when I'm working, I don't run.
yeah.
So
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot. It's almost like a job.
right.
So I wanted to do the London one. Of course, nobody got selected out of the lottery here, and I was considering doing fundraising, but I'm like, do I really want to
Right.
do another marathon? And I don't know if I do right now. I
Right.
definitely do, but and I only wanted to do London was because I've heard so many great things about
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do Boston, I don't have any goals to none of that.
No, I thought my first marathon was gonna be Miami, actually, because 'cause I've heard good things about that one, and
Mhm.
Miami in January doesn't seem like a bad thing.
Right, right.
Um, but Jekyll is closer.
Yeah.
I used to love to travel. I do love to travel for races because it
Mhm.
gives you a reason to
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah.
Um, but whereas I used to be like, "Oh, there's a 5K that's 3 hours away." No, that's
No.
not enough. That's
Yeah,
no. So they have to be longer races to get me
yeah,
to
I
travel now.
agree. My, mentor, he just finished the Utah I don't know what the name of it, but it's in Utah, and it's a downhill, all downhill, and he's really fast, and he's over 40, and I said, how was it? Because I was worried about the altitude, all of that
Right,
stuff, and it definitely made an impact. The altitude, he said once he got to, like, mile 17 or 18, um, it was just the weather changed from being cold and it was hot.
right.
Not interested.
I know the fully downhill makes me go, "Hmm," but yeah.
But that does a lot to your I mean, because I
Your
know
knees, it's hard on your knees.
yeah, because whenever I'm running, I'm always scared that I may fall over, so then I'm resisting a little bit. I can't imagine for 26 miles how that
Right. Yeah,
yeah,
right.
no, that's not one
No.
I wanna do. I definitely, we've got Las Vegas coming up, the Rock and Roll Series.
I
Have you
did
been
my first half was the Rock and Roll in Savannah.
Oh, nice, and I heard they got rid of it.
They are not doing it there anymore. And
Wow.
I had also heard that the half is the best distance to do in Savannah because the full is awful.
Oh, you know what? Somebody told me yesterday that there were some people that passed away during a marathon in Savannah.
And once they go past that, the place where they split off to do the full, it's on highway that there's no shade.
Oh.
There's and it's I mean,
Mhm.
yeah, it's in November, but it's still hot and there's no relief from it.
Wow. How many miles at that point is it?
It's probably 10.
Ooh, so they still have a ways to go.
Right.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. I do wanna get down to Savannah. I've never been, even just to visit. I
Yeah.
wanna go.
Now the half is well, now they're not doing it down there, but it was fun. The only challenge there is the cobblestones because
Oh.
the roads have cobblestones where you're running the squares down there, and a lot of them are cobblestone, so you're it's a little bit more treacherous, but at
Uh,
least you do that.
yeah. Wow. Well, if you could tell a new runner something that you wish somebody had told you, what would that be?
trust in the training, um, and don't compare yourself to others, because I hear so many, and it's hard sometimes.
It is
It's
so
so
hard.
hard when they're like, "Oh, it wasn't it I had a very slow day. I'm not happy with it. I only did 12-minute miles, and my goal is to do 12.5-minute miles." But I went from 17-minute miles, and I'm
Me
down
too.
almost working. I'm getting closer to that.
That's awesome.
So,
Me
which
too.
is
I was a 17-minute miler.
right. And so it's to sit there and try and get all that. I know she found her toy. To it's hard not to compare,
Yeah.
and I get
Especially
that.
when you see running friends or just on social media and they're like, "Oh, wow, I just ran, a 9-minute mile." And you're looking like, "We've been running the same amount of time.
Right.
Why are you," like one lady in particular I can think of, and I want her to come on to tell her story because she lost a ton of weight. But I remember when we started running, we were running, I maybe was faster, which was not fast at
Right.
all.
Right.
She was doing intervals, and then she lost a ton of weight, and then yesterday she ran in the Fuzz Run here in Covington, and
Hmm.
she won 1st place, and I looked at her pace,
Wow.
and it was 8, and I'm like, "What?"
Right. And it's, I mean, the other thing is that I started out, I was overweight, and I was running, and I didn't realize how much nutrition made such a difference. Just going out and running will not necessarily make you lose weight.
Yeah,
And if you don't fuel your body, because everybody's always taught you, well, eat less, exercise more.
yeah, that's
And so it's not, that doesn't work when you're doing especially endurance races, because
Do
you've
you know
got
when I started, I was a keto-ish because I had just my husband was doing keto and I wanted to help him, which was a bad decision because I don't eat meat. So
oh,
so I'm, like, doing
so
keto
now
meal
you don't get your carbs either.
and I'm starving myself, and so then I started running, and I wasn't eating hardly any carbs, and I was exhausted, and I'm like, "What's wrong?" They're like, "Girl, you gotta eat
Yeah.
oatmeal and rice and
Right.
bread," and I'm like,
We've been taught that those are such
Yeah,
bad things, and
yeah,
they're not. That's the
yeah,
other thing. I can eat what I want,
yeah,
and within reason,
yeah.
obviously. But and when I left my marathon, I had to train my body that I wasn't training that much
Oh,
anymore.
yeah.
So the hunger every 2 hours and voracious diet or appetite and everything, then no, we can't do that. We have to find something.
Do you
But
remember the dinner after your race? Because I vividly remember how much I
well,
ate.
it's weird because I was so hungry, right?
Mhm.
Starving. But after races for me, I have to be aware that as much as I see and want everything on the menu, I really cannot eat that much because it'll make me sick.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
I
it's
ate it
like
all.
all the nachos. I ordered this big thing of nachos, and I was seafood, and I was looking forward to it. And I think I ate about 7 bites and was like, okay, I'm done.
I ate everything.
But two
I was
hours later, I was starving
still
again.
starving. I didn't know, like, when you run marathons for the first time, you try to prepare, but you don't know, like, afterwards what to expect.
Right.
And I was like, we went out my mother-in-law's birthday, and we were at a restaurant, and I'm like, starving,
Right. It's
still
time. Let's go
starving.
eat. I'm
It's
hungry.
been 3 hours, and I think I ordered everything, and I didn't have a tummy ache. I ate all of it, but then afterwards, I did notice that I was still having that appetite, and I was putting on
Right.
more pounds. Yep,
Right. Right. Right.
yep,
So it's like, okay, well, if I want to continue to eat the way I want to, obviously not that much, but
right.
because I stopped counting calories because
Yeah,
that was ridiculous at
yeah,
that point in time.
yeah.
Um, but I remember getting onto my kids briefly. I was like, I just bought groceries. What happened to them? Oh, I'm the one that.
That's so funny. Oh, all right. I'm gonna give you this rapid fire question. You just tell me, pick one. All
Okay.
right.
All
All
right.
right. Tread or pavement?
Pavement.
Gels or real food?
Real food.
Brooks or Hoka?
Oh, I like them both, but I wear Hokas to run longer distances.
Okay. Massage or foam roller?
Or a massage, but foam rollers work better.
Uh-huh. Yep. Apple Watch or Garmin?
Garmin.
Okay.
I like
Garmin.
the Garmin's because mine has multi sports on it, and I don't know if the Apples do that anymore.
Yeah.
But I can do like even it's got stand up paddleboard. I kayak a lot,
Oh,
so it
nice.
helps me with those. It's not quite the same, but at least I can keep up with what I'm doing when I'm
Yeah,
kayaking.
I love that. Thank you, Kelly, so much. I really
Thank
appreciate
you.
taking the
We
time. It was
will
a
need
pleasure.
to meet up in person at some point or other.
Yeah.